For over a decade, American Pickers has reigned as a cornerstone of reality television, captivating audiences with its unique blend of adventure, history, and camaraderie. Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz, two lifelong friends turned co-stars, invited viewers into a thrilling odyssey across America's backroads, unearthing forgotten antiques, rare collectibles, and artifacts brimming with historical and cultural significance. More than just treasure hunters, they became symbols of discovery, their infectious enthusiasm and genuine rapport transforming dusty barns and cluttered attics into stages for storytelling. Each episode was a testament to their shared passion for preserving the past, with every rusted relic or vintage sign they uncovered, weaving a narrative that resonated deeply with fans. Their on-screen chemistry built on mutual respect, a love for exploration, and a seemingly unshakable friendship elevated American Pickers into a cultural phenomenon, earning a devoted following and cementing its place in television history. Yet beneath the surface of warm smiles, hearty handshakes, and light-hearted banter about vintage finds lay a far more intricate and troubling story. To the public, Mike and Frank were the epitome of harmony, their partnership a beacon of loyalty in an industry often marked by fleeting alliances. But in reality, their relationship was far from the idyllic bond portrayed on screen. Over time, subtle rivalries began to simmer, festering beneath the surface like cracks in a once sturdy foundation. What started as minor disagreements, perhaps over the value of a find or the direction of a trip, escalated into deeper conflicts, revealing tensions that had long been hidden. These weren't just professional disputes. They were personal, rooted in unspoken grievances and shifting dynamics that neither man fully acknowledged. The polished image of friendship that fans cherished began to erode, replaced by whispers of discord and questions about the true intentions driving both men. What was really happening when the cameras stopped rolling? Were the laughs and shared victories merely a facade masking a growing divide? The strain between Mike and Frank, however, was only the beginning of a much larger and more convoluted narrative. The story took a seismic shift with the emergence of a bombshell lawsuit that peeled back layers of secrecy few could have anticipated. In a stunning turn, Mike Wolfe, long revered as the affable, down-to-earth heart of American Pickers, delivered testimony that sent shockwaves through the show's community. His words cast a spotlight on Rick Harrison, the charismatic star of Pawn Stars, a figure who, while not a regular on American Pickers, was intricately woven into the lives of both Mike and Frank. Far from a peripheral player, Rick appeared to hold a pivotal role in the unfolding drama, his influence extending beyond what fans had ever imagined. The revelations didn't just threaten to tarnish the show's legacy, they plunged American Pickers into a full-blown crisis, raising profound questions about a darker, more sinister secret, lurking behind the glittering careers and seemingly flawless relationships of these reality TV icons. Could there be a chilling truth concealed beneath the surface of those warm handshakes, infectious grins, and exhilarating antique hunts? Was Rick Harrison's involvement tied to a nefarious plot too shocking to unveil? Or was it all a colossal misunderstanding, orchestrated by unseen forces aiming to dismantle the reputations of these beloved stars? The saga of American Pickers transcended its origins as a TV show, morphing into a labyrinth of secrets, conspiracies, and betrayals that gripped viewers and left them grappling with unsettling possibilities. The deeper the story went, the more it became clear that this wasn't just about antiques or television, it was about the fragility of trust, the cost of ambition, and the hidden truths that simmer beneath even the most celebrated partnerships. The sudden death of Frank Fritz in early 2021 sent shockwaves through the reality TV world, shattering the illusion of the carefree, treasure-hunting duo. Adored by fans for his quirky humor, relentless curiosity, and unforgettable moments scouring America's forgotten corners, Frank's passing was more than the loss of a television personality. It was a gut punch that left a void in the hearts of millions. His death sparked an avalanche of unanswered questions, fueling suspicions and igniting an investigation that no one could have predicted. Beyond mourning a cherished friend, Frank's demise became the catalyst for a chilling mystery, one that peeled back the curtain on a world far darker than the nostalgic charm of American Pickers suggested. Initially, authorities reported Frank's death as the result of complications from a stroke, a seemingly straightforward explanation for a man whose health had reportedly been declining. But as details emerged, peculiarities surrounding his passing began to surface, casting doubt on the official narrative. Why, after decades of friendship and shared adventures, did someone as vibrant as Frank meet such an abrupt and unexpected end? What transpired in the moments leading up to his death? As investigators delved deeper, autopsy results deepened the mystery. Alongside evidence consistent with a stroke, Frank's body contained an alarming concentration of toxins, levels far exceeding what could be explained by natural causes. This revelation shattered the initial explanation, giving rise to a haunting possibility. Frank's death might not have been an accident, but a deliberate act of foul play. The undeniable signs of poisoning forced investigators to reframe their approach, shifting from a medical tragedy to a potential homicide. Physical evidence, witness statements, and forensic analysis began to coalesce around the theory that Frank's death was no random occurrence, but a carefully orchestrated crime disguised as a medical emergency. The implications were staggering, sending ripples of disbelief through the American Pickers fan base and leaving Frank's colleagues, friends, and family reeling. Who could harbor the motive and the audacity to commit such a heinous act against a man so widely loved? The question hung heavy, transforming a story of loss into a gripping whodunit that captivated the public's imagination. The investigation took a dramatic turn when attention zeroed in on Mike Wolfe, Frank's longtime partner and the face of American Pickers. For years, their friendship had been the show's bedrock, a beacon of loyalty that fans held dear. But as the probe deepened, that image began to crumble, replaced by a portrait of a relationship fraught with tension and unspoken resentment. Mike, who had continued steering American Pickers after Frank's death, found himself at the heart of the investigation. His actions in the wake of Frank's hospitalization, particularly his swift return to work, and his apparent detachment from Frank's plight, drew scrutiny. Colleagues and insiders noted a marked shift in Mike's demeanor after Frank's health crisis, describing him as distant, almost clinical, in his handling of the situation. Gone was the warm, supportive friend fans knew. In his place was a man whose priorities seemed to lie elsewhere. Was this a natural response to grief, or a calculated move in a larger game of power and control? The fallout from Frank's death didn't just rock the American Pickers community, it dominated headlines and sparked fervent debate across social media. Long-buried signs of discord between Mike and Frank began to emerge, painting a picture of a friendship that, while once genuine, had grown strained under the pressures of fame, ambition, and diverging paths. Fans and analysts alike began to question, was the bond they'd celebrated for years truly rooted in mutual loyalty, or had it devolved into a high-stakes power struggle within the cutthroat world of reality TV? The complexity deepened when it became clear that Mike had long been the driving force behind American Pickers, taking on a leadership role as Frank's health faltered. With Frank no longer by his side, did Mike see an opportunity to cement his dominance over the show, or more disturbingly, did he play a role in hastening Frank's exit to secure his own legacy? Frank's death ceased to be a mere personal tragedy. It became a multifaceted case entangled in layers of intrigue, from suspicions of a meticulously covered-up murder to a friendship marred by doubt and betrayal. The central question loomed larger with each revelation. Did Mike Wolfe anticipate Frank's inability to continue? And did he seize this moment to execute a ruthless plan, reshaping the power dynamics of American Pickers in a way that no one could have foreseen? The answers remained elusive, but the stakes were undeniable. This was no longer just about a TV show, but about the unraveling of a partnership that had defined a generation of reality television. As investigators pressed deeper into the circumstances of Frank Fritz's death, new discoveries expanded the scope of the case, illuminating a tangled web of motives and machinations that defied imagination. While the initial report pinned Frank's death on a stroke, unexpected forensic findings forced experts to confront a far more troubling reality. Toxicology reports confirmed the presence of abnormally high levels of toxins in Frank's system substances that far exceeded safe thresholds and bore no connection to any known medical condition or treatment. These weren't mere anomalies. They were unmistakable markers of poisoning, intensifying suspicions that Frank's death was no accident, but a deliberate act shrouded in deception. The weight of this revelation was staggering, redirecting the investigation toward a chilling hypothesis. Frank had been intentionally targeted. Every piece of evidence, chemical traces, witness accounts, and physical clues bolstered the theory that his death was a calculated crime, meticulously disguised as a medical mishap. The implications reverberated far beyond the American Pickers set, sparking outrage among fans and prompting those closest to Frank to demand answers. Who could have orchestrated such a betrayal, and what could drive someone to target a man whose warmth and authenticity had endeared him to millions? The investigation was no longer just about uncovering a cause of death, it was about exposing a potential killer hiding in plain sight. Suspicion crystallized around a shocking detail. Mike Wolfe, Frank's trusted friend and co-star, emerged as a potential suspect. In a discovery that sent shockwaves through the investigation, Mike's fingerprints were found on vials containing the toxic substances in Frank's medicine cabinet. This wasn't a casual oversight, it was a damning clue placing Mike at the scene of the crime, raising urgent questions about his presence at Frank's home in the critical hours before Frank was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Why was Mike there? Was his involvement coincidental, or was it part of a carefully laid plan? The fingerprints alone weren't conclusive, but they were a pivotal thread in a growing tapestry of evidence that painted Mike in an unsettling new light. The case grew murkier as interviews with colleagues, friends, and family revealed a relationship that had quietly deteriorated in the months leading up to Frank's death. Though Mike and Frank had once been inseparable, their bond had frayed under the weight of unspoken tensions. According to those close to Frank, he had confided fears about his future with American Pickers as his health declined, feeling increasingly sidelined by Mike's relentless focus on the show's success. Meanwhile, Mike appeared consumed with maintaining the American Pickers brand, showing little regard for Frank's struggles. This divergence in priorities fueled investigators' suspicions. Was Mike exploiting Frank's vulnerability to consolidate his control over the empire they'd built together? Or was there an even darker motive at play? Financial pressures added another layer of complexity to the investigation. A deep dive into Mike's personal finances revealed he was grappling with significant debts, a burden that could have intensified his desire to secure American Pickers' future, potentially at any cost. Investigators uncovered evidence suggesting Mike saw Frank's declining health as an opportunity to eliminate a partner who had become a liability. Secretive conversations with producers, held behind Frank's back, outlined plans for the show's future without him, hinting at a calculated effort to transition American Pickers into a new era under Mike's sole leadership. These revelations transformed the investigation into a probe of ambition and betrayal, with Mike's every move scrutinized for signs of ulterior motives. With each new clue, fingerprints, incriminating texts, and cryptic exchanges with colleagues, investigators began to piece together a chilling narrative of greed, power, and deception in the reality TV world. Was Frank Fritz's death a tragic fluke, or the culmination of a ruthless scheme to remove a co-star and seize control of a television juggernaut? The questions multiplied and the stakes grew higher with every revelation. Mike, once celebrated as a loyal friend, now stood alone under a cloud of suspicion, his legacy hanging in the balance as the truth inched closer to the surface. As the investigation reached a fever pitch, the spotlight remained fixed on Mike Wolfe, whose role as Frank's steadfast partner was now overshadowed by mounting doubts. For over a decade, their friendship had been the heartbeat of American Pickers, a symbol of trust and camaraderie that resonated with fans worldwide. But Frank's sudden death marked a turning point, exposing fault lines in their relationship that few had suspected. The public began to notice subtle but troubling shifts in Mike's behavior, from his rapid return to work to his apparent detachment from the grief that engulfed Frank's loved ones. These actions didn't just raise eyebrows, they fueled a growing narrative that Mike might have had a hand in the tragedy that claimed his friend's life. In the days following Frank's death, Mike's swift move to take control of American Pickers struck many as suspiciously opportunistic. While the world mourned Frank, Mike immersed himself in meetings with producers, charting the show's future with a decisiveness that felt jarring to those expecting a period of reflection. This wasn't the grieving friend fans had hoped to see. It was a man seemingly driven by a singular focus on preserving the American Pickers empire, even at the cost of empathy. Insiders, from crew members to Frank's family, expressed unease at Mike's behavior, with some openly questioning whether his priorities lay with the show's bottom line rather than honoring his fallen friend. The contrast between Mike's public expressions of sorrow and his private actions painted a troubling picture, one that investigators couldn't ignore. Text messages and emails uncovered during the investigation offered a stark glimpse into Mike's mindset in Frank's final days. Far from the supportive partner fans knew, Mike's communications with producers revealed frustration and impatience with Frank's declining health. In one exchange, he described Frank as a liability to the show's future, a statement that chilled those who read it. Other messages showed Mike planning for American Pickers without Frank, discussing potential replacements and new directions, as if Frank's absence was a foregone conclusion. These weren't the words of a grieving friend. They were the calculations of a man preparing to move forward, unencumbered by a struggling partner. The coldness in Mike's tone left investigators and fans alike questioning the depth of their bond and whether Mike had been biding his time, waiting for an opportunity to take full control. Those closest to Frank added fuel to the fire, sharing stories of a friendship that had grown distant in recent years. Family members recalled Frank's private concerns about being pushed out of American Pickers, his fears that Mike was prioritizing the show's success over their partnership. Friends noted Mike's increasing detachment, describing moments where he seemed more focused on logistics than on supporting Frank through his health struggles. These accounts painted a portrait of a relationship strained by ambition and diverging priorities, with Mike emerging as the dominant force, unwilling to let Frank's challenges derail his vision for the show. Was Mike truly the loyal friend he'd portrayed, or had he been quietly orchestrating a future where Frank was no longer part of the equation? The investigation's focus on Mike intensified as financial records revealed a man under pressure. Mounting debts and financial obligations suggested Mike had a powerful motive to secure American Pickers' future, even if it meant making ruthless decisions. Conversations with producers, conducted in the months before Frank's death, showed Mike laying the groundwork for a solo-run show, discussing budget adjustments and casting changes without Frank's knowledge. These discussions weren't just pragmatic, they were strategic, hinting at a plan to phase Frank out long before his health took its final turn. The more investigators uncovered, the clearer it became that Mike's actions weren't spontaneous, but part of a calculated effort to protect his own interests, no matter the cost. As the evidence mounted fingerprints on toxic vials, incriminating texts, and a trail of financial woes, Mike's position grew increasingly precarious. His attempts to explain his actions faltered under scrutiny, and his once unassailable reputation began to unravel. The public, once enamored with the idea of Mike and Frank as brothers in arms, now grappled with a darker possibility, that Mike had betrayed the very friend who'd helped build American Pickers into a global phenomenon. The investigation wasn't just about solving a crime, it was about dismantling the myth of a friendship that had captivated millions, exposing the harsh realities of ambition and power in the world of reality TV. Just when the case seemed to center solely on Mike, an unexpected figure emerged. Rick Harrison, the larger-than-life star of Pawn Stars. Though Rick had no direct role in American Pickers, his sudden relevance to the investigation added a new layer of intrigue, transforming an already complex case into a sprawling saga of alliances and hidden agendas. Digging deeper, investigators uncovered that Rick and Mike weren't just casual acquaintances, they shared a deeper connection, one that hinted at a coordinated effort to protect their respective empires in the high-stakes world of reality television. Text messages and emails between the two men revealed conversations that went far beyond friendly banter, touching on strategies that raised serious questions about their intentions and their potential involvement in Frank's fate. At first glance, the exchanges between Rick and Mike appeared innocuous, two industry veterans commiserating about the pressures of fame, the demands of their shows, and the challenges of staying relevant. But as investigators analyzed the communications, a darker undertone emerged. One message, sent mere days before Frank's death, stood out for its chilling ambiguity. In it, Rick offered Mike advice on navigating a worst-case scenario involving Frank's health, urging him to prepare for a future where Frank might not be part of American Pickers. The tone wasn't one of concern, but of pragmatism, as if Frank's potential absence was a problem to be solved rather than a tragedy to be mourned. Other messages followed a similar pattern, with Rick providing strategic guidance on maintaining the show's momentum, even if it meant making tough calls. These weren't the words of a bystander, they suggested a level of foresight and planning that sent investigators reeling. The implications were staggering. Had Rick and Mike been collaborating on a plan to ensure American Pickers' survival, regardless of Frank's fate? The messages didn't explicitly implicate Rick in a crime, but they painted a picture of two men united by a shared goal, protecting their brands and their influence in a competitive industry. Rick's advice wasn't just about keeping the show afloat. It was about securing Mike's dominance, potentially at Frank's expense. Investigators began to wonder if Rick, with his deep industry connections and savvy business acumen, had played a role in shaping Mike's decisions, knowingly or unknowingly contributing to the events that led to Frank's death. The absence of empathy in their exchanges, particularly in the days surrounding Frank's hospitalization, only deepened the suspicion that their priorities lay with power and profit, not friendship. While no concrete evidence directly tied Rick to Frank's death, his presence in the investigation raised troubling questions about his knowledge of the tensions between Mike and Frank. Had Rick been privy to Mike's growing frustration with his co-star? Did he encourage Mike to take drastic measures to safeguard American Pickers' future? The messages suggested a partnership built on mutual ambition, one that may have prioritized success over loyalty. As investigators pieced together the timeline, they couldn't shake the sense that Rick's involvement, however indirect, had added fuel to an already volatile situation, creating a perfect storm of motives and opportunities that culminated in tragedy. The investigation was no longer just about Frank's death. It was about unraveling a web of relationships, ambitions, and hidden alliances that stretched across the reality TV landscape. Rick Harrison's role, whether as a knowing accomplice or an unwitting catalyst, cast a shadow over the case, complicating the narrative and deepening the mystery. The cold, calculated exchanges between him and Mike, coupled with their apparent disregard for Frank's plight, painted a grim picture of an industry where friendships could be sacrificed for the sake of power and prestige. As the probe continued, it became clear that the truth, whatever it might be, would shake the foundations of reality television, exposing the cost of fame in a world driven by relentless ambition. As the investigation into Frank Fritz's death entered its most critical phase, a cascade of new evidence reshaped the case, turning speculation into a grim reality. Forensic experts delivered a bombshell. Toxicology reports confirmed the presence of lethal toxins in Frank's system, substances that had no medical justification, and pointed unmistakably to poisoning. These weren't trace amounts, they were deliberate, deadly doses, shattering any lingering hope that Frank's death was a tragic accident. The findings sent shockwaves through the investigation, redirecting focus from a medical mystery to a calculated act of murder, one that demanded answers and accountability. The evidence didn't just confirm poisoning, it provided a roadmap to a potential perpetrator. Messages, emails, and private conversations between Mike Wolfe and his industry contacts painted a damning portrait of a man preparing for a future without his co-star. In one chilling exchange with producers, Mike discussed the need to move forward if Frank's health didn't improve, outlining plans for a restructured American Pickers that excluded his longtime friend. These weren't hypothetical musings, they were strategic, as if Mike had already accepted Frank's absence as inevitable. Other communications revealed a growing impatience with Frank's struggles, with Mike describing him as a drag on the show's momentum. The coldness of these words stood in stark contrast to the warm, brotherly bond fans had come to love, raising a haunting question. Had Mike been planning to erase Frank from the picture all along? The discovery of Mike's fingerprints on vials containing the toxic substances in Frank's medicine cabinet was a turning point, transforming suspicion into a concrete lead. This wasn't a minor detail, it was a direct link placing Mike at the heart of the crime scene, forcing investigators to confront the possibility that he had played an active role in Frank's death. The fingerprints, combined with Mike's documented frustrations and financial pressures, painted a chilling picture of motive and opportunity. Financial records revealed Mike was drowning in debt, facing mounting pressures that could have driven him to desperate measures. With Frank's health faltering, Mike may have seen a chance to eliminate a partner who was no longer an asset, securing his own future and the show's profitability in one fell swoop. As the evidence mounted, Mike's attempts to deflect scrutiny grew increasingly strained. His public statements, once filled with grief and nostalgia, rang hollow in the face of incriminating texts and forensic findings. Colleagues who had once defended him began to waver, noting inconsistencies in his accounts of Frank's final days. The public, too, turned on Mike, with social media erupting in debates over his role in the tragedy. The image of Mike Wolfe as a loyal friend and passionate picker was replaced by that of a man driven by ambition, willing to sacrifice even his closest ally to protect his empire. The investigation wasn't just about solving a crime, it was about dismantling a myth, exposing the raw, unvarnished truth behind a friendship that had defined American Pickers for over a decade. The case reached a boiling point as investigators closed in on a final reckoning. Every piece of evidence, texts, fingerprints, financial records, and witness accounts pointed to a betrayal of staggering proportions. Mike's cold, calculated moves in the wake of Frank's death suggested a man not grieving but strategizing, ready to capitalize on a tragedy to cement his dominance. The question was no longer whether Mike had a motive, but whether he had the audacity to act on it, orchestrating a crime that would forever alter the legacy of American Pickers. As the investigation neared its conclusion, the truth hung tantalizingly close, promising to reveal not just the circumstances of Frank's death, but the cost of ambition in a world where loyalty is often the first casualty. The story of Frank Fritz and Mike Wolfe is no longer a tale of treasure hunts and camaraderie. It's a cautionary saga of power, greed, and the devastating choices made in the pursuit of fame. The investigation into Frank's death has exposed the fragility of even the strongest bonds, forcing fans and insiders alike to confront uncomfortable truths about the reality TV industry. Whether Mike Wolfe emerges as a villain or a victim, the legacy of American Pickers will never be the same. As the world awaits answers, one thing is certain. The truth, when it finally surfaces, will leave an indelible mark, reminding us that behind every glittering success lies a shadow where secrets and betrayals thrive.